What is up, all Clemson Tigers family? Welcome to the All Clemson Tigers show on Athlon Sports. I am your host, Cole Gerard, alongside.
I'm Cannon Gerald.
And George Misvec.
All right, dude. All right, boys. I was about to say dudes. It's been a crazy week for Clemson basketball. We talked last week coming off that Georgia Tech loss and, what it was going to do for the season, where we thought this was going. We're going to be on the bubble here in a couple weeks and we're going to get blown out by Duke. But the last 80 hours have probably been the craziest for the Clemson basketball team and the Clemson fans in a long time.
Yeah, definitely. I was in Charlotte Friday evening. Got the Little John around 12:30. By the time I had gotten there, the security was kind of telling us that where we were at was going to be standard room only. So we kind of made the decision to go watch their triple, and I can tell you that atmosphere in there was absolutely off of the walls.
Yeah, I mean, I was so impressed just how the boys bounced back after that 3 OT loss. I mean, it's so easy to drop a game like that and just kind of just keep slipping, right? Especially with the team like Duke coming in and the way they were playing. But, yeah, I mean, credit to the fans, that environment. Like Cannon was saying, he got there 12:30 for a 6:30 tip, and it was already standing room only. So, I mean, it was awesome in there. I got there at 11:30, so I just barely got a seat. But, no, it was great in there.
Yeah, the biggest question going into Duke was, can Clemson, cover Cooper Flag? Can Clemson, hold Cooper? And, we held him in the first half. Everybody knew at some point in the game that he was going to pop off. In the last 5 minutes of the game, he decided to do so. But let's talk about, looking at this Duke team, they're no doubt the best team in the country. In my opinion, I think so. I think Tyrese Proctor, looking at him, 23 points. He played almost 40 minutes, 9 for 15 from field goal, 4 for 8. I'm almost thankful that, some of these good players for Duke, what was number 7? I can't remember his name.
I think.
Yeah, that guy. If, their starting 5 had like 3 to 4 fouls early. So that was a big test in it for sure. Cause number 7 had to sit for a while.
I really like
that flagrant and stuff like that. So, there could have been a lot of different scenarios in this game, looking at that, say Duke, their players don't foul as much, they get more minutes, they get more time to, do some damage. But looking at Clemson, we did not shoot the free throw well at all that night. 13 for 22. It seems a lot worse than what it really is on paper. But late in the game, when Ian Shefflin missed those 2 free throws, I thought it was done. I thought it was wraps. I was like, okay, here comes a Cooper Flag 3. And next thing we know, Cooper Flag's on the ground, slipping in Little John. I think that was the best thing of the night. I went literal crazy.
How long was it on your Twitter feed for? Did you see either Duke fans complaining or, just something about pay the mob girl or something like that? I don't know. I really like what you're saying about Con Kneppel.
That's what it sounds like. Sorry.
That's crazy. No, that's hilarious. But like even with him, if he didn't get those fouls early on, he was 3 for 4 from 3 in that first half. It's not like he wasn't shooting efficient. And Tyrese Proctor ended with 22 plus points on the night. And like you're saying, Cooper Flag, it might have taken him a while, but he eventually showed us why he's the projected number 1 overall pick. I just want to give all the credit to Brad Brownell. I think that he had the perfect defensive game plan coming into this game. It seems like they just kind of put Ian Shefflin just primarily on him. Kind of told him as soon as he dribbles the ball, go face guard him, go take him out of this game. You really saw the absence of Ian on that offensive side of the ball. And at first I didn't know if that was maybe, just to primarily focus on containing Cooper. because that's a big of a task as it is on its own. Maybe you think he's still nursing the injuries a little bit. But thank God we have Victor Lachlan. Am I right? You want to talk about somebody that has shown up when they needed to show up. These last 2 games, scoring 20-plus points easily. In that North Carolina game, he did it in the first half. But he was exactly what we were talking about even last week, what he needed to be for us to be in this game.
Dude, Victor Lockett has been, nothing short of what I thought he would be. Kind of a slow start at the beginning of the year. It took him a little bit to get adjusted to Clemson's system, I think. The first couple of games were kind of shaking for him, but it's been nothing but all Victor Lockett in these last 2 games. And 2 games, each scoring 22 points. Obviously, like you said, he had 20 in the first half for North Carolina. They were going to find a way to, keep the ball out of his hands, and they did. But we still, that was tied for the largest margin of victory for against North Carolina at 20 points. North Carolina, their record's not good, but they have a lot of talent on that team. And, where's killing them is at the big man. They don't have a, true big man, in my opinion. But, you still got R.J. Davis and guys like that. I didn't really carry or, study a lot about this guy, but Hunter Tyson's brother, was he not getting a lot of more minutes at the beginning of the season than what he got the other night?
Yeah, I thought so. But, I guess kind of the game plan changes when you're in a blowout like that, it kind of felt like. But yeah, you can't speak highly enough about Victor. He's been dominating and really when like you said, Shefflin's kind of taken not a step back on offense, but maybe less of a role. But the spacing is still there. He's still working the paint and allowing Victor to work the perimeter. As we know, Coach Brad wants to have his big men play. We saw PJ do it all year last year and really all throughout his career. So yeah, just being able to work the perimeter, shoot the 3 the way he has. Yeah.
I think I saw on Twitter today that 5-man rotation of Chase, Dylan, Victor, Ian, and Zach is the most efficient 5-man team in the country in terms of total offense and total defensive efficiency. And I just think it's crazy. You think about the North Carolina game. I know you saw the play where we're throwing it off the backboard, throwing it at 3s. He missed the shot, but we're doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Let's go back to the Duke game just for a second. If you want to jump in North Carolina, looking at, Victor Lockett was 4 for 4 from 3-point range. We only made 4 threes as a team against Duke. We shot the ball well. I can't remember. We shot 58%, but we shot lights out that game. So, obviously outside of Victor Lockett in this Duke game, not really relying on the 3, what you think carried this Clemson team to this win? We didn't have a lead until 11 minutes left in the second half. So, talk about that team effort and getting out of Little John, beating the number 2 team in the country.
Yeah, you talked about it earlier a little bit with the slip, and of course, being a team like Duke, it's going to take a little bit of luck. But like we talked about, when you hit a couple extra shots and you stay in a game, and we see it a lot of time in football, and you hate it, especially as a Clemson fan. You feel like you're the better team every week, and you let a team that you think is worse just stick around, never put them away. And when you let a good team like these Clemson teams stick around, they're gonna make you pay at a certain point. And I think that's kind of what it was: hitting a couple extra shots, staying in the game, locking up on defense when you needed to, and then just a couple huge efforts and hitting a couple of big shots down the stretch.
Yeah, and I want a huge shout out to the fans too, because I legitimately think the Little John is becoming one of the hardest places to play in the country. Obviously I was at the North Carolina game, not the Duke game, but I heard about how loud it was. I heard it was some of the loudest cadence CLEMSONs that people have ever heard. And if we pack,
I have to go in reverse.
Internet's kind of hurting him a little bit.
I saw a tweet today that I retweeted. I think it was just saying if
we lost you for that whole thing.
Yeah, we lost you.
It is what it is.
Yeah. But talking about that, yeah, and it was some of the loudest cadence counts I've heard in Little John, for instance. I think it was louder than 2 years ago versus Duke for sure. That was. I've been going to Clemson basketball games all my life, and that was easily the best crowd. It was like, when you go to a Clemson basketball game, you're mostly sitting during the game, other than the student section standing up, but I stood up the whole entire time. Only time I sat and was in the first half when we had 10 turnovers in the first half. limited that to 2 in the second half, finished night with 12. I mean, I can't ask for, coming out of halftime, the biggest key to victory was making your free throws. We didn't really do that the whole night, but, limit the turnovers because they had a lot of points off turnovers in the first half, for instance. But, hell of a win. But, Cannon, I wish you got to be in Little John. I mean, that was probably it just felt different. Like, it was loud. And, I knew when they rushed the floor, John Shire tries to call a timeout with 1 second left down 6, saying that he still had a chance to win in his post-game conference. But really, I thought he was going to try to get the timeout off and send Cooper Flagg or the whole team to the locker room so they didn't have to deal with the court nonsense. But the referee did throw his hands up, signaling timeout. But, I mean, once you have all the students on the floor, there's no going back. And I'm sure you guys have seen the video of, so-and-so John Shire pushing this guy. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, he's trying to say it was assault and stuff like that. But, I mean, it's court storming. And I'm not agreeing with running towards their bench. Or, I'm not going to run towards a player like that and try to, get him in trouble, hurt him and stuff like that. I think that's just stupid. And, rush the floor and celebrate with your team. But one thing I don't agree with is John Shire, every post game, if they get upset, talk about court storming. I mean, it's college basketball. That's what it's known for. You beat the number 2 team in the country on your home floor, you're rushing the court every single time. And it seems that these like big name teams are always having something to say about it, especially, Mark Pope in Kentucky had something to say about it early in the year, saying we were the Super Bowl. They're always going to get rushed to court. Somebody's going to rush the court versus them and stuff like that. But I'm a huge fan of court storming. I think it's a lot different than college football, like playing like an opposing team. Like, for instance, you're only rushing the court at home, obviously. Everybody gets that. But, like, college football is different, especially the Clemson, South Carolina nonsense. That stuff's all different, like an opposing team planting the flag. But, I mean, college basketball and the return of Dick Vitale, rushing the court. I mean, it couldn't happen to a better team, in my opinion. Yeah,
I mean, I agree with what Bubbles is saying right here. And just like in baseball, if you don't want a guy to bat flip, get him out, right? I mean, if you don't want him to rush the floor, get the win. And no, definitely. Obviously, you want to respect the other team and the other coaches. Don't need to be going over to their bench, getting in their face. But yeah, I mean, let the guys have fun, rush the court. That's what it's all about.
I think it's dwindling too, because I think the SEC as an entire conference is just getting, kind of more strict and more strict as the weeks go on. I think Vanderbilt's kind of leading that pact of being anti. I don't know if you guys saw, but I think they had a whole minute or 2 minute wait after, cleared everything out, and then rushed the court. And it was the most anticlimactic thing I've ever seen in my life. So I hope that that's not the future of court storming, but it is not looking good.
But, I mean, really, look at these security teams for these colleges and stuff. I mean, these people are, no offense, these people aren't stopping these students, thousands and thousands of students. So at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do. Like, I agree everything what Bo says. They have such a problem with rushing the court. Just win the game. And, Duke was supposed to win that game, and they didn't. They came to Little John. They found out. I'm always confident in Little John, other than Georgia Tech at a 9 o'clock tip. But anybody can come in there. We can send Auburn, Florida, and all them tomorrow, and I would feel confident. But Clemson's ranked number 23 in the nation. I thought we'd be a little higher, but obviously they're still letting that Georgia Tech loss hang on us a little bit, which is understandable. But, we swept Tobacco Road. Coming off that Tuesday loss versus Georgia Tech, you told me we'd have beat Duke and North Carolina in 2 days. I would have said you're stupid. And, I thought we maybe would have had a Duke hangover coming into that North Carolina game. But Brad Brownell's team had, they did the opposite. They were coming out there ready to play basketball, and they did. But obviously, Clemson goes to Florida State this Saturday, 12 o'clock. Florida State coming to this game 14-9. Clemson 20-5, 23rd in the nation. We've already met Florida State this year. If I don't remember, Florida State shot the 3-ball well that game, if I can remember right. This is a game you should go in and win to keep building that resume. But I haven't watched a lot of Florida State hoops this week, but, it should go our way if we go in there and do business.
It definitely should. I think they're a team that kind of started the season off a lot slower than they should have. Maybe not as they should have, because they weren't as good as they should have been last year either. But they've kind of found their groove these last couple of weeks. They had a debacle against Boston College, I think, that we talked about, but they've beaten some kind of decent teams, and going on the road in the ACC, especially like you're saying, nervous about a Duke hangover. What about a Duke and North Carolina hangover? You know what I mean? Especially on the road. I think the thing that still scares me the most is a 12 o'clock road ACC tip-off, just because I know how these Clemson teams like to come out slow. So the good thing about Clemson basketball is I think no matter who we're playing, it's going to have you on the edge of your seat. So I am beyond excited for the game in Tallahassee.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about that hangover, and obviously you got to be careful about that. But, I mean, I thought we played better even against UNC. I think that was maybe the best game we've played all year, just in terms of defense, offense. Just the whole game plan was awesome.
For sure.
The reason I think this team is special and is potentially really dangerous is there's so many ways they can win games, right? I mean, you're worried about the hangover, but I feel like we had 6 guys maybe in double figures against UNC. I could be wrong on that, but I mean, there's so many guys who are putting up production, and I mean, like when you go down the stretch and you got to win games in the ACC and you got to take care of business, that's what you need. You need guys like Del Jones, who is probably a starting point guard in many other teams in this league, who's like he's getting 6-man minutes. You need that kind of player, and that's what this team has for sure.
Yeah. So coming up in about 40 minutes, Wake Forest and Florida State square off on the hardwood. Wake Forest is 18-6, and they're a 6.5-point favorite tonight. Wake Forest is a bubble team right now in the NCAA tournament. So we can, I'm going to watch that game and see what Florida State's about. I haven't watched them since we played against them earlier in the season, but, I do agree with what you said, George, about, or it was either you or Cannon said about, is there such thing as a Duke and North Carolina hangover? I guess we'll see. I feel like we usually play good at Florida State. But everybody remembers 2 years ago, Chase Hunter hitting the buzzer beater and one to sneak out of Florida State. Somehow that team missed the tournament that year. Yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to get too much into that. But, this Clemson team has a chance to do special things to end this season. For one, I pray Duke drops a game. And their schedule's playing out how they want it. It's very light besides a random game versus Illinois. Now, I thought we were straight conference games from here, but it might be a reschedule. I don't know. Bowl says, this weekend that we can be in March, 2 big games within 48 hours of each other, and you won both. That's correct, Bowles. If only we had you out there, I'd have felt a lot more confident. But, I mean, looking at Clemson's schedule to end February, obviously you got Saturday at Florida State. Then you got the next weekend at SMU. I mean, SMU's 19-5, looking like a tournament team right now. That's not going to be an easy game at 4 o'clock either. I feel like, not playing them. I don't remember if we've ever played them before, in recent years and hit like in a tournament or something like that. What was this? I would blank on the hardwood. But then you got Notre Dame at home, and then your March games versus a not very good Virginia team, Boston College, and then Virginia Tech. Knock on wood, but there's a chance this Clemson team wins out. And looking at that Georgia Tech loss still hurts because we'd be first in the league right now, but I still think we're in good hands.
Yeah, and I think that SMU game is by far and away the most important game that we have left on our schedule. I think that they're on a 5-game win streak right now. I believe they play Wake Forest Saturday, so we'll see that Wake Forest team, like you said, tonight. But before that, their last loss was then ranked at the time Louisville, and then their last loss before that after a 4-game win streak was Duke. So this is a SMU team that the losses at the beginning of the season might kind of make their schedule and resume a little bit uglier than it should. But I watched their game against Pitt this weekend, and I think that they're for real. And I think that it's one of those games that if we kind of go in lacking because it's on the road, we'll get got.
Yeah, SMU is, I believe it's the best 3-point shooting team in the ACC. I think it's 39% from 3. And one thing that I don't think we've mentioned yet is we dominated on the glass against both Duke and UNC, but we lost the turnover margin in both of those games. So I think that taking care of both of those things just going forward, obviously dominating on the glass, that's how you win basketball games. But yeah, just holding on to the basketball, stuff like that. And against a good 3-point shooting team, just more. I love that face guarding you talked about we had against Cooper Flagg. Just more of that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's beautiful to see. We'll be right back from a short break from short word from our sponsors, then we'll talk a little bit about some Clemson baseball.
The winter cold is on its way, and it's time to have your heating system serviced. Just like changing the oil in your car will lead to longer engine life, having an annual tune-up on your heating system will keep you warm in your home all winter long. Annual furnace tune-ups will keep your utility bills in check and your warranty intact. It catches little problems before they become big headaches, and it also improves the quality of the air in your home. If you haven't had your heating system inspected by a professional yet, schedule your annual tune-up with Blue Ridge Heating and Air today.
Ever find yourself needing custom gear that really stands out? At Carolina Printing Sports and Trophy in Hartsville, SC, we personalize everything from t-shirts to trophies, making sure your brand or team logo pops. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, or dazzling plaques, we've got you covered. Swing by today and let's create something unique just for you.
Are you tired of scrolling endlessly to find the perfect deal?
Who said that?
Me.
Ah! Who are you? How did you get in my house?
Be not afraid. I'm the Frugal Fairy. See, at the Frugaling Shop, we bring the best deals to your doorstep, so you can spend less time searching and more time saving.
Yes, hello? There's a man with wings standing in my living room, and I'm scared.
All right, all Clemson Tiger family. Welcome back to the All Clemson Tiger show on Athlon Sports. We just got done talking about Clemson basketball and those two huge home wins for the Tigers against Duke and North Carolina. We're 2 days out. College baseball back. Team left today. So it's feeling real. It's been a long time, I feel like, but once we get back in DKS next week, it'll really start feeling real for especially Clemson fans. But I'm eager to see who all travels out to Arlington for this opener. I think it's really cool to open something like this. But you guys ready?
Yeah, no, I'm really ready. I started looking at kind of Oklahoma State's, projections and everything like that. Don't know too much about the team. But it kind of looks like they lost a couple of their best hitters and their best pitchers via the draft. I think they had some guys that could really, really hit the ball hard and often. Not to mention their two best aces with by far, I don't want to diss on these guys because, I didn't watch every game, but by far and away the best ERAs in their team are now gone. And they're filling those kind of bat and rotation spots with two freshmen that they seem excited about. So I guess let's not give them a reason to kind of go up there and stay excited about their freshmen. But it kind of made me feel a little bit better about starting the season out without Bakic. Obviously not having him without those two games. It'll be interesting to see if the guys can get it going away from home.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma State it's a great challenge to start the year. This is a team, they've won 3 straight seasons with 40-plus wins. I mean, they're consistently in the tournament, hosting regionals when they're up in the mix, and they're, of course, in the preseason top 25. But like you mentioned, they lost a lot of pitching. I think it was all 3 of their weekend guys I saw, in terms of the most starts. But they also returned a bunch of guys and obviously hit the portal. I know Nolan Schubart, I think he's like the 3rd or 4th ranked outfielder in D1 baseball. He hit 370 last year, 1,300 OPS. I mean, he's a first-round kind of guy. So, I mean, it's going to be a challenge, of course, and I think Bakic and the boys are ready for it.
Oh, no doubt. Like Bakic says, he wants to go out of there 3-0, but kind of wants to get punched in the mouth a little bit and see our strengths, but also our weaknesses for Team 128. And I think this roster, man, is deep. There's a lot of depth on the pitching staff. As well as on offense, but kind of want to what's injury news regarding Dane? Anyone else besides Luke? We all saw. If you were at the scrimmage Sunday, you saw Dane Moeller, kind of throw his hat and glove down, holding his arm. So other than that, I don't know anything. Now I wouldn't expect him to pitch this weekend, just because anytime a pitcher has something like that, you're not going to pitch that weekend. So. Let's hope the best for Dane Moeller. That kid's a stud. He's a freshman, which is, sucks for something like that to happen a week before the season. But I wouldn't expect him to pitch this weekend. But I hope we get him back very, very soon. We can kind of do a little rotation. Who thinks the rotation is going to be? Obviously, Friday night, you're throwing Aiden Canuck. There's no doubt about it. And then, that Saturday, Sunday, kind of maybe be like a TBD kind of deal. Obviously Ethan Darden's going to probably go one of those days. And then, I also heard Michael Gillen is just dealing with a little bit of soreness that he won't throw this weekend. I'm hearing that. I can't confirm on that or anything, but you know, Ethan Darden, I would think he's going to go. You know, he has a lot of experience. You know, we've seen him since his freshman year in ACC play. You know, also Justin LeGurnick. Justin LeGurnick, that lefty, he's had a lot of experience. He had a lot of good outings last year, in my opinion. You know, he was a young freshman, but now, I mean, he's grown up, sophomore, throwing a little bit harder too. So, you know, I wouldn't be shocked if that was your rotation you saw this weekend.
Yeah, don't be surprised if you see a couple of young guys. I know Talon Bell. I was kind of doing a little bit of research earlier. I know Jonathan mentioned in the chat there. I think it was PG grade 10, best command in the class, and you got a lefty who's got multiple pitches. I mean, he's a little on the smaller side. He's not the biggest guy, but he fills up his frame and he can shove. He can bring it. Fastball creeps into the low to mid 90s, and he's got that sharp stuff. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Jonathan says I'm here for Bobby McShevern. Yeah. I think Jacob McGovern was really good last year out the pen. He was kind of like that, you know, that couple pitch guys, get that one out, get us those, you know, 3 big outs, 2 big outs. And I think that's going to be his role again this year, if not bigger. He might be somebody that's like first out of the pen in some scenarios, but you know, there's no question about it, our best reliever this year. Coming out, you know, we got a lot of good pitching. You know, obviously Drew Titzworth, Reed Garris. You know, every time I think about somebody, I can't ever get it out of my mouth. Nathan Dvorsky, Joe Allen, Chase Kick, freshman. But Lucas Malstead, dude, he has made a big jump since last year. Coming in last year from Wofford with Matthew Marshall. This is going to be Lucas's last year. But, dude, he has grown since June in that Florida game. I mean, coming up, you know, he's still stubby, but he's got over the top as well now. So looking at him, dude, I wouldn't be surprised if you see him start jumping early and Arlington coming up. I mean, and obviously everybody knows about Drew Titzworth, probably going to be closing a little bit, but you know, I saw on Twitter earlier today saying Luke Kissenberth was going to be out for the season. He was a transfer from Citadel, so looking like he will maintain that eligibility to be able to come back next year. But you know, looking at the hitting side, obviously we know the departures: Jimmy Overtop, Alden Mathis, Jacob Hinderleiter, Will Taylor. I know there's another one I'm not thinking about. I almost said Andrew Chupo, but he's bad. Blake Wright. And obviously you return Cam Canarella, Andrew Chufo, Jacob Jarrell, Tristan Bissett, and guys like that. A guy that I'm very excited to see where his place is this weekend is Tristan McClatty. Freshman, didn't get a lot of playing time last year, but came up huge in a super regional with a big hit. I think it was to tie the game or be down 1 after Jack Crichton's ejection. But, you know, who do you guys expect to see Friday at 12 o'clock versus Oklahoma State?
Ken, did you want to?
No, you go ahead, George, first.
Yeah. No, there's a bunch of guys, right? I mean, we don't know what the lineup's looking like, but of course you got your studs. You got Cam Canarella playing center field, so we're gonna have something at the very least. But yeah, I'm really excited for Dominic Listy, kind of in that Alden Mathis role you mentioned. Maybe not a ton of pop, but he's never hit under 324 in his college career, and he's a great fielder from what I'm seeing. Former Indiana State Sycamore, that's a great program over there. And I'm really glad you mentioned Lucas Malstead. You know, he had a great summer in the Cape, I know, and he's one of those guys who's just a nightmare of an at-bat, really lefty or righty. I mean, that guy, it's kind of – and especially if he adds an over-the-top angle, I mean, he's coming at you with all kinds of stuff. Great follow on Instagram, by the way, for anybody who doesn't throw him a follow over there. He's got really cool stuff about his process and talking about kind of his the way he works through at-bats and stuff like that. So, yeah, no, I mean, a couple guys, but up and down, I'm really excited to see kind of the new talent, the transfers, and then just some of the freshmen too, you know, a couple of those arms. Dane Moeller, like you said, if he can be healthy. It just kind of depends. You know, we'll see what the situation calls for, and I'm excited for everything.
Yeah, for me, I think the guy that I'm excited to see, just kind of like in terms of taking the next step, is Purify. I think that Jaron is poised to make a tremendous jump. I think that he has to get a little bit more patient, a little bit at the plate. His walk to strikeout ratio wasn't as good as you want it, and he's just the kind of guy that can kill you by just getting on base. So I expect a lot of maturity. I heard a lot of good things coming out of his summer camp. You know, he's just getting stronger and faster. So I really think that he has the potential, you know what I mean, to kind of make that infield not just consistent, but kind of electrifying and exciting to see, you know what I mean? I expect to see some kind of cool flips to first or second.
Yeah, like Jonathan Hall says here, big year for JP and Tristan Bissetta. I think Tristan Bissetta is going to have a huge year as well. You know, didn't end the season how he liked in that super regional. I think he was over 6 that day, but that doesn't, you know, play out to what Tristan Bissetta can do. I've watched him all fall and, you know, leading up to this spring. That kid is huge. I mean, I think he got stronger. It's hard to get more strong as Tristan Bissetta. But yeah, and then, you know, talking about some transfers, you know, obviously Dominic Listy, Josh Pena, and then some younger guys, Luke Gaffney, Colin Priest. You know, Luke Gaffney's only looking like he's going to be here for a year because, I mean, he was a red shirt. So he's draft eligible this year, you know, and with his bat, I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone, you know, after this season. You know, kind of hard to predict, but the kid's looking insane. And then Colin Priest coming out of Michigan. And then I was going back and looking at Michigan's stats last year. I think he had like 11 bombs or something. And he didn't start for the first. I can't remember. I didn't write it down, but he didn't start for a while. I don't think he started to the end of the year, and still had 11 bombs. Got a lot of ABs in the Big Ten. So, you know, coming to the ACC play, if he can fit in, or, you know, if he can adapt early, and I'm excited to see him this weekend. You know, this guy that I'm about to mention has been on the team 3 years now. Got some at-bats last year, but, you know, never moved into a starting role and never really saw as much playing time as he wanted to. But Jay Dillard. I've been watching Jay all fall as well and lead up to the spring. Jay's going to play. Jay's going to be the next guy up. You know, he's going to see a lot of ABs this year, a lot of playing time. And that's one guy I'm really, really excited for. And Jacob Jarrell as well. You know, Jacob's been a starter for 3 years now. We've seen his bat, and it's gotten a lot better. You know, we've always seen him hit. If he hits a home run, it's going a long ways. You guys seen it. But it's looking a lot better this year, and I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of guys who are returning, who everyone wants to talk about the transfers and the freshmen, but there's a bunch of guys who, you know, it takes a long time to develop. You know, like you mentioned Justin Legurnick, another guy he's got the frame, he's got that annoying delivery. He's a nightmare of an at-bat to face. Like Joe Allen, another guy who's been here for a while, he's been like kind of a midweek guy, maybe the occasional weekend start if depending on depth. But, you know, when you got a guy who's been productive over a long period of time in college, that experience and that kind of those innings and being able to put it together over a long period of time, that helps you in the long term and helps you in a season where, you know, in a game when it's 4-4 in the bottom of the ninth, then you need that out, or in the top ninth, you need that out. So I'm excited for those returning guys too.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of think, I think we'll see a lot more variability with the team. You know, like you said earlier, we're losing 4 guys that gave us 67 home runs. You know, we're plugging it with the Purdue transfer and everything like that. It's giving us a little bit extra power. But I think we're going to see Backage do some pretty interesting things with this lineup just because he has the ability to, with guys like Listy that can just give you that spark off the edge if you need one, you know, with the extra base hit. You know, I don't expect to hit 106 home runs again this year, probably. But I think we're going to hit a lot of doubles and triples. I would say that we're probably going to lead the nation top 10-ish in extra base hits.
Yeah. And obviously, you know, last year as well, I'm not worried about the offense this year, but if this pitching staff can play out to what it's looking like, you know, this Clemson team is going to be, you know, hard to beat. And obviously it's college baseball. You know, the D2 level is not far off the D1 level as it is in football. There's a lot of studs. You know, it's hard for everybody to go to D1 with all these roster spots and stuff like that. So it don't matter who you play. The talent's going to be good wherever you go. So that's what I love about college baseball because, I mean, you play college football and you're Clemson playing Mercer. You know, I'm hammering Clemson in that game. But, you know, college baseball, everybody's good. It feels like to play at that level of D1. So, you know, I'm excited to get down there in Texas. Jonathan Hall says we need super coverage from Texas Cole. If these guys want to do a show tomorrow or Friday, dude, I'm down. So get a little pre-show going on. I know we've talked about doing one on Fridays before home games, so we're gonna do that. Get you some good Clemson baseball coverage here on all Clemson Tigers on Athlon Sports. But guys, you got anything else to wrap up with, or?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of bringing it all together. It's good. It's college baseball, like you said, and the talent's always going to be there. So it just comes down to doing your job. The team last year who it kind of felt like we knew all year that the offense was so great, and it might come down to pitching in the super regional. So I'm excited to see, and I hope that Coach Baggage and all the fellas are kind of challenge them to come out and say, hey, we're going to be elite offensively and defensively. I know we led the ACC in errors last year. We can't have that. This team is going to pride itself on making all the plays, on getting the clutch hits, getting the clutch outs. And I think working with Jazz Chisholm is going to help that too.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, kind of the way the basketball season's going, it's kind of just contagious for that baseball. I know everyone in my classes has been asking me if it starts this week, and I've been having to unfortunately tell them that we don't open the season in DKS. So the fans are ready. I'm excited to watch the boys. I do think that I'm unfortunately going to give my money to Flow Sports or whatever it is to watch it, just because there's no way that I don't go without watching these first couple games. But yeah, I'm excited to see us handle some business.
Well, if you do so, make sure you give Coach or Jonathan Hall your login. He says, I need someone's login to watch. So
yeah, don't worry, John. I'll reach out.
But I mean, he said Flow Sports is trash, but I mean, from what I'm seeing on their coverages, it looks pretty cool. I've never had to watch anything on Flow Sports, but their production coverage looks pretty cool. So, yeah. But other than that, I'm Cole Gerard.
I'm Cannon Gerald.
George Misovec.
We will be back next week. Depending on these boys' schedules, I know there's some busy guys. We will try to get you a pre-show either tomorrow or Friday, early Friday morning. Well, I forgot the game's at 11 their time, so we'll have to do a post-game show just to kind of feed off of what we saw from the newcomers and stuff like that. But other than that, we will see you guys next episode. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.